I'm going to tie a braid back, and I'm starting with a size 12 scud hook in the vise, but you can tie these in a straight shank as well. And I've got a 7/64 tungsten bead in copper. The thread that I'll use is a 70, and this is in a tan. And I'm going to start by putting a thread ball in front of the bead. I'm going to be tying the material over top of the bead, and so I need enough room to tie it in and make sure that bead doesn't go any further than that point. So once I've got a ball there, I'll push it forward to make sure that it's big enough, and then I'll whip finish and remove the thread. If you'd like, you can put a drop of Zap-A-Gap or head cement on that ball to make sure that it stays put. Then I'll bring my thread behind the bead, take some wraps to get it started, and now I can begin to tie in my material. For the tail of this, I'm going to use a pheasant tail, and I'll take off maybe 6 to 8 pheasant tail fibers. I'll hold them on the top so I know how long the tips will extend beyond the hook, and we'll wrap those in down the shank, and I'll work my way back up. Remove the excess. This will have 2 ribs to it. One is going to be made up of a small copper wire, and the other is going to be made up of a white Euro thread, or you can use just a heavier white thread, sewing thread. And so I'll start with a couple of wraps there, and then I'll take this Euro thread, which you can see is a pretty thick gauge, and I'll set that on top and tie them in together down as far as I tied in my tail. Now this is going to have an all thread body of this tan, so I'm building that out now, putting a slight taper to this as it gets closer to that bead. And then I'll start with my Euro thread, take even wraps up through, tie it off behind the bead, and I can remove that. And now I'll take my copper wire, and I'll want to follow that white thread before it. And so you can pick a side. I'm taking the side before the rib, so you can take it on the other side. It doesn't much matter. And then I'll remove the wire once I reach the thread. So now for the braid back, I'm going to use a flat diamond braid, and they come in different size depending on how big a pattern you're tying. And I'll trim the ends so that they're even, and I'll tie this on the back, and then I can add in a thorax, and for that I'm going to use an olive ice dub, but you can also use peacock herl, or choose your favorite dubbing here. And I'll whip finish behind the bead and trim. I'm going to reattach my thread to the front. And remove. I'm going to add in some legs to this, so I'll use some more pheasant tail for that. But you can use partridge or, again, whatever you prefer for a leg material. Take a handful of wraps and then you can start to adjust them as needed. I'm going to situate my hook in the vise more upright. And then trim. And I'll put another set of legs on the other side. And then I'll bring this braid between the two legs and tie it off. And then I'll finish the head. Help the legs into position here. And a drop of head cement. And that is a braidback.